The day the mock exam results came out, my mom went nuts and questioned me like crazy. What are you trying to show off for? You know your sister didn't do well. Can't you just let her have this one? I let out a dry laugh and started losing it right where I stood. Let her, yeah right. I'll let her ancestors rocket to heaven. Ugh, I'll destroy everything. I dropped to the floor, crawling, screaming, yanking at my hair like a madwoman. The day the third mock exam results were released, something clicked inside me. That's when I finally realized I'm living in a novel. Lucky me though, I wasn't the protagonist. The heroine is my delicate, helpless, adopted sister Carrie. Back then, my parents got caught in a grudge, the building caught fire, and it was Carrie's parents who ran in to save them. They died when the beams collapsed. Once Carrie's mom heard the news, she packed up and bailed overnight. Feeling guilty, my parents took Carrie in and treated her like gold. Even my future became a stepping stone for her. I saw in the story that after acing my college entrance exams and getting into a prestigious school, my parents made me give up my spot for Carrie. When I refused, they locked me up at home. I made a break for it and jumped out the window, only to get hit by a car. My biological parents, grieving, changed Carrie's identity, and she took my place at school. Why should my life pay for their debts? She lived the life that was supposed to be mine. She married my big brother when she came back, all educated and accomplished, becoming the spoiled family favorite. My idiot brother even brought her to visit my grave. The manipulative little sister went, "Sis, we're so happy now, you can rest in peace. I'll make sure to take care of mom and dad for you, and stay with brother happily in your place." Wow, just wow. When I realized I was just Carrie's stepping stone, and that my parents and brother were accomplices, I lost it. After processing all this, I stood there with the results in hand, at the door of my house. I took a deep breath, slowly opened the door, and there came my mom's rapid-fire questions. Where have you been? You have the nerve to go out and party when your sister is in such a state. Sure enough, everything played out exactly how I saw it happening. Picturing myself as Carrie's stepping stone in the future, I tangled my hair and started going crazy. Are you really my mom? How could you not care about me? Is she dying? Why should I care about her? Why don't you care about me? I'm your real daughter. I am. My mom was freaked out and just stood stunned, but Carrie jumped in first. How can you say that, sis? Mom definitely cares about you. She's always been good to you. I smirked. Oh really, you missed out, did you? You're begging for a scolding? Want me to slap you to make you feel better? The teacher said you're failing again. I've told them you're clueless, but they didn't buy it. Why continue studying? Go raise pigs instead. Mom's eyes widened in disbelief, pointing at me, her hand shaking like crazy. You know your sister isn't doing well. Can't you just make an exception and let her have this time? The idea of being forced to pave the way for Carrie made me even madder. My state of mind was shattered. I grabbed my hair like mad, crawling on the floor and screaming. Are you blaming me again? Why blame me? Aren't I your daughter? Why don't you love me? Are you nuts? Why not love your own daughter? Let. I'd let her mom's grave shoot up to the sky. Don't you have a daughter of your own? I went absolutely bonkers, more insane than ever. Growing up, it was always about making way for Carrie. If I didn't, then I wasn't a good kid. I tried so hard, really hard to please them. But to them, I was just fighting for attention, pushing Carrie out. They didn't see my excellence, only Carrie. So why even have me? Why? Anything that was mine was overlooked. And if there was only one of something, it went to Carrie. I'd grown up being the one suffering blamed, and I'd end up getting glares and scoldings for not understanding. They wouldn't stop reminding me that Carrie's dad saved them at the cost of his life. They owed him everything. But really, it was them who owed Carrie's dad, not me. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Mom was terrified by my behavior. She looked at me frozen, ready to pull me back. Clara, what's wrong? Don't scare me like this. Why wouldn't I love you? Hearing that, I looked up at her without blinking. Really? I wasn't buying it. If I was truly loved, why force your own daughter to be a stand-in for an adopted one? Seeing that I was about to lose it again, Mom quickly reassured me, of course. What kind of mom doesn't love her daughter? Even Carrie was startled. But how could she pass up a chance to stir the pot? She looked all teary-eyed, like she was the biggest victim, You're the real daughter here. How could you question Mom's love? I know you've never liked me. I'll leave if you want. Mom, take care of yourself when I'm not around, sob, sob, sob. And off she went, heading for the door. Mom couldn't watch her beloved daughter leave, could she? She forgot about me in an instant and chased after her precious girl. In that moment, my sanity snapped completely. Especially seeing them hug and cry like that. I got even angrier. That's when the front door opened from the outside. My dumb brother had come home. He glared at the scene, then at me, as if I was mad, and shouted, "Clara, are you bullying Carrie again?" After yelling at me, he gently supported the two crying women, showing concern for one and all. "Carrie, don't worry. Your big brother will always stand up for you." Carrie was crying in his arms, looking so pitiful. "Brother, if sister doesn't like me, I'll just leave. You're a family. Don't be mad at her because of me." Hearing this, David got even angrier. He comforted Carrie and said, "Leave? This is your home. No one should leave but them. Don't worry, your brother will protect you." While saying that, David shot me a couple of nasty looks. You see, she's Carrie and I'm Clara. Every time I see David, I'm reminded he's going to have Carrie pretend to be me and attend the school I've always dreamed of. He'll even marry Carrie, letting her live the life that should have been mine. But I'm his real sister. Especially the way David just looked at me. Was that how you look at your little sister? I've always been so obedient, never getting any praise. Instead, they leech off me, hurting me without hesitation. Is it true that only crybabies get candy? Fine. I'll cry then. I rushed over, separating the two, and grabbed Carrie, pulling her hair, slapping her face, crying, going crazy. "Don't you have a mom? Why are you stealing mine? Why?" All the grievances of the past 17 years exploded in that moment. I watched Carrie scream, trying to escape, her face red and swollen. It felt great. "Let's do it again." Before I could move, David pushed me so hard I slammed into the wall. "Clara, have you lost your mind?" I went numb, my whole body felt numb. The string holding my sanity snapped. I lunged at David, grabbing his hair, pinning him to the floor, pulling at his mouth, poking his eyes. Crying and screaming, I cursed him out, letting out all the hurt from these years. "You push me? What gives you the right? You've been calling her pitiful for years. Aren't you sick of it? Who's pitiful? Who? Aren't you all biased towards her? Haven't you given her everything of mine? How dare you treat me this way? Don't you have a real sister? Why must you adopt another? Are you just sick? Why are you so biased? Why? Who's your real sister anyway?" David was bruised and battered, a chunk of his hair torn away. Even my mom, seeing this mess, didn't dare come over to stop me, trembling as she called my dad. I only let go of David after I got tired. He was a mess. Seeing that I'd stopped, Carrie rushed over to him, crying her heart out, like someone just died. Watching her made me twitch. What now? I've developed a reflex here. Whenever she cries, I feel like giving her a piece of my mind. Sensing my movement, Carrie screamed and hid behind my mom. My mom's lips trembled, about to cry. "Clara, I beg you, stop doing this." I shook my hands, not planning to do anything else anyway. I was exhausted. I plopped down on the sofa, looked at my mom, and said, "What are you looking at? Go make dinner." Carrie clung to my mom's clothes, too scared to move. I raised an eyebrow and scoffed, "You too. Chop me some fruit." The living room suddenly went dead quiet, except for David moaning on the floor. When my dad came back, that's what he saw, leaning back on the sofa, snacking away, while my mom, David, and Carrie huddled on the other side, quietly crying. His lips twitched, clearly confused by the scene he walked in on. And as soon as she saw my dad, Carrie started bawling louder. Of course my dad isn't David. With a grim face, he slapped me and told me to go to my room and kneel. I was defiant. My rebel streak shot up sky high. "If you don't love me, why did you have me? If you're gonna hit me, do it well, otherwise when you're old, I'll cut off your oxygen and scatter your ashes." Dad was shaking with anger, seemed like he'd pass out any second. He took the cane and gave me a solid beating. During it, I saw Carrie's triumphant look. Ugh, felt like going berserk again. I held on to the chaos inside. The next day, I intentionally wore long sleeves to school. Remember, it's peak summer, blazing hot. In my homeroom teacher's eyes, I'd always been a well-behaved student. Seeing me like that, she immediately knew something was up. I awkwardly refused to take off my jacket, but eventually, under her coaxing, I did and burst into tears. While saying there's nothing wrong, I begged her not to ask more. Seeing my bruises, my teacher hugged me and cried even harder than I did. She immediately called the police. In that instant, I swear I saw a halo over her head. She was my savior. I vowed to study hard to repay her kindness. My dad's a successful local businessman, and if word got out that he's guilty of child abuse, his company's as good as done. Public outcry alone could drown him. So, I wasn't worried about any repercussions from him. When he was brought to the station, he was totally dumbfounded, unable to believe what he was hearing. His face turned all shades of purple. I was concerned he'd just keel over then and there. Mom looked at me disappointed. Clara, how did you become like this? What did we do wrong for you to do this to us? I hid behind my teacher, crying like I'd lost everything. It's all my fault for having better grades than my sister, making her sad. Mom, please don't be mad. I won't do it again. Don't let Dad hit me. Now everyone's giving my mom side eye. Especially my teacher, her face changed right there. My mom's expression shifted from green to white. The matter was settled with my parents writing a promise at the station. As we were leaving, I timidly looked scared, making my teacher even more protective. She patted my head. Clara, if anything happens, call me. I'll be waiting at school. Her words were directed at my parents. On the way home, Mom cried, wearing a cloud of misery on her face. I couldn't resist. Cry. Dad's not dead yet. Your sobbing's gonna destroy this family. David heard the commotion and hobbled down from upstairs. When he saw me, his face changed and he instinctively stepped back half a step. My dad sat on the couch, looking at me with a dark expression. Clara, do you know what you're doing? He didn't dare lay a hand on me now. I crossed my arms and looked down at my dad. Are you questioning me? All their good temper went to Carrie growing up. They always spoke harshly to me. If they didn't love me, why did they even have me? All I ever wanted was fairness. My dad thought about it for a while before he spoke, carefully choosing his words. So, what exactly do you want? Simple. I want your precious son and daughter to stop messing with me before my college entrance exams. If they dare, they better be ready for me to fight back. Oh, and give me the keys to that apartment near campus. I'm moving in there. I wasn't afraid he'd refuse. He's someone who values family harmony a lot, especially since he can't let others know Carrie isn't living it up at our place. Otherwise, he wouldn't ignore me getting treated like garbage at home without ever speaking up. He was taken aback by how simple my demands were. All right, I'll get someone to help take care of you too. After all, I'm still his daughter. He wouldn't let me go without food or a roof over my head. But David from the stairs wasn't having it. Dad, wasn't that apartment supposed to be Carrie's coming-of-age gift? If you give it to Clara, what about Carrie? I heard this and immediately glared at him. I rushed over in a few strides. David turned pale and tried to retreat upstairs, but I grabbed him. Pinned at the bottom of the stairs, he got a good reminder of what it's like to get beat up. Slapping his face, poking his eyes, pulling his hair, screaming like a monkey writhing. Why give it to her? Am I not your sister? What about her? Isn't everyone here crazy about her? I'm the orphan with living parents. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I let go of David, rushed to the kitchen and grabbed a kitchen knife. I'll butcher Carrie right now, then come back for y'all. We'll all die together. What right do they have to treat me like this? Do I have to be Carrie's stepping stone? To hell with it. They should all die. My mom sobbed even louder when she saw me like this, but didn't dare to stop me. My dad was scared stiff by my antics. He spoke, voice trembling. Clara, let's talk this out. Put the knife down first. Your brother has issues, don't hold it against him. Since I promised you the apartment, it's yours. Hearing that, my eyes lit up. See, I told you he's brainless. David was lying on the floor half dead, and he fainted as soon as he heard me say that. All the while, Carrie hadn't dared to show her face from upstairs. I'd been backing down for too long, letting them trample over all my boundaries. But what a relief it was now. After flipping out, I felt so much better. I happily hummed a tune as I went to pack my things. I didn't expect love from this family anymore. I just wanted them to stay off my back, and for nobody to mess with me. But I didn't think Carrie would still stir things up after all that. The next day at school, I noticed people giving me strange looks. They were whispering and pointing behind my back. Could I let that slide? I picked a random person and cornered them. What's up? Cat got your tongue? Speak up, let's hear it. Scared half to death, the poor soul mumbled. They're saying you're crazy. You attacked your own parents. And nearly sent your brother and sister to the hospital yesterday. Me. You didn't need a genius to know that was Carrie spreading rumors. I dragged the person with me to Carrie's class. Come on, let's get a good look. Carrie was in her seat, pitifully showing off her bruises. I walked up and flipped her desk over. Carrie's face went pale instantly. She looked at people around her like she was being bullied. I wasn't having it. I grabbed her by the collar and dragged her to the door. You're spreading rumors I'm crazy, huh? Some of Carrie's friends tried to intervene, but I held her hair tight. You come any closer, she's done for. Isn't that what a lunatic like me would do? More people gathered. It's not every day you see two sisters in a cat fight. I cried loudly, pulling Carrie's hair even tighter. Look, everyone. We took in Carrie for over a decade, and now she's spreading lies about me. So what if I hit her before? She pulls stunts like crying because I score better than her in school. She's always snatching what's mine, even trying to steal my parents now. Why? Carrie's face twisted with pain, tears rolling down, trying to refute. No, Clara, how could you say that? I don't mind when you hit and scold me. I'm just the adopted daughter. How can I treat you badly? I didn't like what she was insinuating, but I wasn't gonna go full psycho with so many people watching. After all, I'm a civilized person. I'd hate to traumatize the kids. I looked her up and down. Listen to yourself. Do you even believe the nonsense you're spouting? Look at you flaunting the latest bracelets and clothes. That idiot brother of mine drives you to school every day. Who doesn't know that? Didn't you brag about him being obsessed with protecting you? Amnesia hit you or what? Did he ever pick me up once? Anyone seen it, huh? Why are you quiet now? Talk, aren't you usually yapping away? People couldn't help but point at Carrie, shocked she was just adopted, and still putting the squeeze on the real daughter. Carrie had never been on the receiving end of such gossip. She let out a wail, shoved me aside, and ran off. I wasn't the least bit worried about her ratting on me. I clapped my hands, looked at the crowd around me, and gave a slight smile. All right, I'm gonna go back to doing my homework. See ya, guys. And with that, I waved my sleeve and left, not taking anything with me, not even a cloud. People, sometimes you gotta put on a show. I've always been in the top 3 of my grade. I was already popular at school, but now with Carrie pulling that stunt, my image shifted. I went from being the top student to the lovable, tragic, strong lady. It wasn't until after class that I checked my phone. Not a single missed call. I was a bit disappointed. Didn't they care about Carrie so much? They should be mad at me, accusing me or something. I started having some twisted thoughts. Since tomorrow's the weekend, I figured I'd head home. First, to grab some stuff. I was in a hurry moving yesterday and left some things. And second, to stir up a bit of chaos and annoy Carrie. The first person I saw when I got home was Carrie. Next to her was David, directing people moving stuff upstairs. Huh. Hold on, I squinted. Isn't that my piano? My mom saw me and turned pale. Then she acted as if nothing happened and headed to the kitchen. Oh my, I'm getting so forgetful with age. Haven't even started lunch yet. Clara, you like chicken wings, right? I'll make them for you right now. She rushed to the kitchen and slammed the door shut. She didn't mention a word about me hitting Carrie at school yesterday. David saw me and nervously swallowed. Don't go crazy, he said, hesitating. He added, Clara, don't get me wrong. I just thought, since you weren't home, your piano could stay upstairs for Carrie to use for a couple of days. I'll move it back as soon as you return. I chuckled. What are you saying, bro? Aren't we family? David gave a sigh of relief, timidly asking, so you're not mad, right? The smile on my face slowly twisted. Before, they'd take my stuff without asking. If I ever showed reluctance, I'd get scolded. They'd always say Carrie lost her family young. Can't you just give her a bit? Can't you understand your parents? If I didn't fight back, I'd be blamed for not sparing Carrie. Blamed and criticized till after I die. with Carrie living under my name. Disgusting. Just disgusting. With a family like this, who wouldn't go mad? I looked at them menacingly. Why would I be mad, brother? I'll just cut off whichever hand Carrie used to touch my piano. David rushed to shield Carrie, looking as if facing a big threat. He hadn't even healed from his own injuries. Gotta say he's oddly kind. I raised a hand and clapped. True love for sure. They moved my piano back to where it was. Only then was I content, strutting back to my room. Turns out, lowering your standards a bit really does bring happiness. With exams coming up, I didn't want to waste my time and energy on Carrie. Once back at my apartment, I threw myself into studying. I knew I couldn't rely on my family. My parents only cared about David and Carrie. On the last day before the exams, I moved into a hotel and switched off my phone. I didn't want to waste my time dealing with them on one of the most important days of my life. After the exams ended, I finally relaxed. The difficulty wasn't much different from usual papers. I did a rough calculation of my score. I should be able to get into my desired college. After all, as per the plot, I did manage to get in. On the day the exams ended, I packed up overnight and flew to another city. I didn't turn my phone on until the results came out. The phone was almost frozen by a flood of messages. Congrats from my class teacher and classmates, bombarded messages from my parents too. Time to go home and stir things up again. Gotta make them remember, don't you think? As soon as I reached home, I heard crying from inside. My dear parents and brother were probably comforting Carrie as a family. Honestly, with her bottom-of-the-class grades, getting into any school would have been a feat. But my delusional family clearly didn't see it that way. In their minds, Carrie was a princess, deserving the best school in the world. Ugh. I spat. Walking in, I glanced around the living room. Sure enough, all united as a nice little family. Oh, what's this about? I teased. Didn't get in, huh? No wonder you're crying like someone's died. I've always said you're an idiot. They just wouldn't believe me. Bet they believe it now. Carrie's wailing increased. David shot me a glare, seemingly having forgotten the pain from the last time. I'm ready to remind him if he's forgotten. My dad sat on the couch, his expression fluctuating. Clara, come to the study. I have something to discuss. I didn't need to guess. It wasn't going to be anything good. Glancing at Carrie, I crossed my arms. Say it here. His face darkened, and after a long pause, lit a cigarette, suppressing his voice as he spoke. If you're willing to give your spot at the prestigious college to Carrie, just name your conditions. If Dad can do it, he will. His tone wasn't a request but an order. Though I was expecting it, my heart still twinged with pain hearing those words. Is this what a father should say? He nurtured Carrie for years, claiming emotional ties. What about me then? I sneered, grabbed a vase and smashed it on the floor. Not a single piece of furniture was left unhurt. As I hurled things around, going berserk. I paced the house, continued smashing, pulled my hair, screamed, cried. Since I finished the exams, has any of you cared about me? Carrie's all you see. Hasn't she received enough? What about me? What have you ever given me all my life? I shouted. She's your debt, not mine. Why should I pay your dues with my life? My dad's pupils were shaking, and he trembled as he spoke. Clara, please, let's talk about this, don't go crazy. Why should I talk nicely to him? Ever since he said those words, we have nothing left to say to each other. The house was a complete wreck because of me. I only stopped smashing things when I was exhausted. No one in this family is normal. I know they won't let me off easily. I'm not an adult yet, and I don't have civil capacity. My household registration is still here. But sitting around waiting isn't my style. I quickly pulled out my phone and called the police. Hello, is this the police? I want to report my parents. They want someone else to take my place and go to college. That's a crime that can get you jailed. My mom let out a cry and looked at me in disbelief. Clara, what did we ever do to you? Why are you tearing this family apart? Why do you think I'm tearing this family apart? Do I have to butcher Carrie to get the point across? I turned towards the kitchen, ready to grab a knife. Sensing my intention, David lunged at me and grabbed my leg, pleading, Clara, please, your brother begs you, just spare Carrie. I kicked David aside and sneered. Do you really think you can just brush this under the rug? I already told my friend before I came here. If she doesn't see me tonight, She's calling the cops on you for imprisoning me. Since I found out what was going on, I haven't trusted anyone in this family. My dad looked like he wanted to eat me alive, pointing a trembling finger at me, face red with anger. Clara, let me tell you something. Don't think just because you got into college, you can fly out of my grasp. You're nothing without this family's support. Save that speech for the cops. I wasn't buying into it. My life should be mine. Why should I let Carrie take my spot? The cops arrived soon. My parents didn't admit to trying to let an adopted daughter take their real daughter's college seat. Just said we had a fight. I sobbed in front of the cops, insisting they write a guarantee that I would be the one going to college. Only then did the issue get resolved. The police didn't let my parents or my brainless brother off the hook though. They all got a stern talking to about how what they were planning was illegal, and not to even think about it. After the cops left, my parents were visibly deflated. I winked at my mom, stop wearing that sour face. Hey, go cut me some fruit. Afraid I'd do something drastic again, my mom ran to the kitchen. Oh sure, I'll do it right away. Leaning back on the couch with arms crossed, I said, you guys too. Get your phones out and post on social media. Celebrate me getting accepted into a prestigious university, and start planning a party. Seeing them all reluctant, I slapped the table. What are you waiting for? Post it. Scared, they quickly pulled out their phones and did as I said. Carrie started sobbing in the corner of the couch. I shot her a glare. You too. Post it. She scrambled to find her phone. On the day of the party, all of my dad's friends and partners, and all those distant relatives showed up. Not a single one missed it. They congratulated my parents, saying things like, you've raised such a great daughter. Congratulations. How did you raise Clara to be so outstanding? Share some tips with me. My parents' faces were about to crack from the forced smiles. Whether they were genuinely congratulating or not, who knows? But I didn't care. I noticed Carrie sneaking off with a guy towards the stairwell. I remembered that guy, Ken, a devoted puppy to Carrie, and a well-known rich kid here. Who knows what mischief they're plotting to hurt me? I followed them and saw Carrie dive into Ken's arms, crying dramatically. She exaggerated everything I've done lately, sobbing for comfort. Ken's face twisted with pity, promising to take revenge for her. He even listed hundreds of ways to get back at me. Carrie played the innocent, weak role beautifully, telling him only to teach me a lesson, so I'd realize my mistake. Listen to her, such a shameless female lead. I was stunned, and recorded the video. This juicy piece of drama had to be shared with everyone. I approached the event organizer, and paid them to swap my high school memory video with Carrie and Ken's conversation. Claimed that it was a security camera mistake. Guests were puzzled until they heard my name, and Ken's list of punishments for me. Their expressions changed rapidly, pointing and murmuring. My dad, face dark, had the video shut off, and my mom nearly fainted. They apologized profusely to the guests for the spectacle. My dad's reputation was completely tarnished, especially since some of the guests were business partners, likely ruining quite a few deals. My grandpa snorted, supporting himself with a cane. All of you come here. Just as we entered, Grandpa hit my dad with his cane. My grandma hugged me, crying like she'd lost a son. My poor Clara. If I'd known they'd bully you like this, I never would have let them bring Carrie into this home. My mom stammered, Mom, that's not how it is. It's Ken. He's the one influencing Carrie. Yeah, right. It's obviously that boy inciting Carrie. And Clara did hit Carrie first the other day. My mom's bias was off the charts. I cried my heart out, clutching my grandma. Grandma, you don't understand. My mom forced me to give Carrie my college acceptance letter. My name, my identity. Grandma, I don't want to give it to her. That's the school I got into. Clara is my name. I must have looked really pitiful. Hearing this, Grandpa's hand trembled with anger. You fool. Carrie's father's debt is not Clara's burden to bear. Why force it on her? That's your own daughter. Can't you handle it yourself? Why do you have to take Clara's things to pay it off? A perfect graduation party turned into a complete mess. My mom sat there crying. On one side, there's the adopted daughter she loves, but I'm her real daughter. There was some guilt in the way she looked at me. But deep down, I knew Carrie would always be more important to her. If I hadn't known the future, I'd be dead by now. Grandma was forcing my mom to send Carrie away. She's 18 now, The nurturing was enough. My mom was hysterical, refusing to do it, and my dad didn't want to either. He took in Carrie partly to return a favor, and partly for his career. Raising her well was his way of proving to others that he was a good guy. Eventually they made a deal. Carrie could stay, but none of the family's assets would be hers. My dad had to put half of his real estate in my name, and I'd get some company shares when I turned legal, managed by them until I joined the company. When Carrie arrived, Grandma slapped her right away. Ungrateful child. We've raised you all these years, and you repay us by plotting against Clara. The slap left Carrie stunned. Holding her face, she looked at Grandma in disbelief. Grandma, what are you talking about? Then she looked to David for help. David gritted his teeth and stood in front of Carrie. Grandma, take it out on me if you want. David, Clara is your real sister. Grandma was heartbroken, but couldn't bear to hit her own grandson. I was chiming in from behind Grandma. Sis, I know you don't like me, but you can't team up with outsiders against me. Grandma, I'm so scared. Carrie turned pale and stammered. Clara, what are you talking about? How could I hurt you? Enough. What more do you want? It's one thing to act crazy at home, but do you have to drive Carrie away too? My idiot brother burst out, acting as if I'd committed a cardinal sin. Get out! Out! Grandma pointed at Carrie, seemingly ready to skin her alive. Grandma, David protested. You two get out. Grandma was fuming. Upon hearing this, David pulled Carrie out without looking back. At home, I'd successfully turned into the fearsome villain everyone dreaded. Summers at home were awesome, absolutely awesome. I bossed Carrie around ordering David about. But I never expected Ken to be so bold as to kidnap me while I was out. He took me to a small, dingy motel. There were a few sketchy-looking guys with yellow hair waiting, grinning lecherously at me. Ken told them to roll the camera and start stripping me. You haven't had a taste of such a beauty yet, have you? You'll take turns soon. Ken even tried undressing me himself. His malicious intent was beyond what I imagined. He planned to destroy me. I gripped my palm, forcing myself to calm down. Did Carrie put you up to this? Ken was taken aback, a bit panic-stricken, his voice growing louder. What nonsense are you talking about? I don't even know who Carrie is. No one's gonna hear you scream. I looked at Ken like he was an idiot. Does he have a screw loose? Probably. Otherwise, why say something so stupid? I called the cops. The moment I said that, those yellow hairs got visibly nervous. And don't forget, I'm not even legal yet. Kidnapping, extortion, attempted rape. Guess how many years you'll get? After all, they were just high school kids. Hearing this made them panic. Ken blushed. He was that angry. He kicked one of the yellow hairs on the butt. What are you standing there for? Untie her. What nonsense. We didn't kidnap you. We're just old classmates catching up. Ken wasn't completely dumb at least. Still, the ropes loosened. I rubbed my wrists, gesturing harm to myself with slaps across my face. I tore my own clothes, messed my hair, pinched myself to create marks. The yellow hairs were stunned, unsure of my antics. The next moment, there was a commotion outside. I started screaming, "Help! Help! Don't come near!" The noise outside intensified. The police burst in, catching sight of me huddled in the corner, showing signs of abuse. A young policewoman teared up, rushing over to help me. Little girl, didn't succeed, right? Ken and his guys were caught too. They kept yelling they didn't kidnap me, claiming all the injuries were self-inflicted. Who'd believe that? Me, a defenseless girl, getting them to a motel to rape myself? Ken's voice was hoarse from arguing, glaring at me, repeatedly naming who his dad was. The police were not pleased with his arrogance, detaining him more forcefully. My parents rushed over when they heard what happened. My mom was about to cry when she saw me, so I quickly covered her mouth. Stop, that's enough, shush. I never understood where she got all those tears from. Naturally, they recognized the guy from the other day chatting with Carrie. The cops checked our home security footage, confirming Ken had kidnapped me. I also showed the police a video of Ken and Carrie plotting against me. No matter how wealthy his dad was, jail was inevitable. He was charged with kidnapping and attempted rape of a minor. However, Carrie didn't directly discuss harming me in the video, so it couldn't be a crime. Ken was fiercely loyal to Carrie, sticking to the claim that the kidnapping was his idea, not involving Carrie. Ken's dad was furious, but couldn't do anything to me since I was the victim. He unleashed his anger on Carrie instead. Since Ken liked Carrie, he decided Carrie would marry Ken once she reached legal age. Carrie wasn't having it. She was crying and asking my parents for help. But the power and influence of Ken's family were way beyond what my dad could handle. My mom, with tears in her eyes, blamed me for blowing things out of proportion. My brother was so angry he wanted to hit me. Carrie was sobbing, "Mom, brother, I don't want to marry. I never wanted Ken to do this." But if I hadn't called the police, was I supposed to just be kidnapped, raped, and have my life ruined? Am I even your real daughter? I've lost all anger by now. Just felt a surreal calmness. My mom mumbled, couldn't say a word, her eyes dodging mine. My idiot brother chimed in, "You're fine now, aren't you?" I gave him a look like he was an idiot. I'm fine because I resisted. I was smart. Not because Ken was feeling generous and let me go. But clearly, their tiny brains couldn't grasp what even a 3-year-old would understand. Even if Carrie didn't want to go, Ken's family took her anyway. Ken was still in jail. Do you think his dad would make her life easy? After all this, I completely moved out. When school started, I dragged my suitcase and said goodbye to this city. I caught my flight to college under the first rays of dawn. Much later, my cousin told me about the family's situation. Carrie suffered a lot at Ken's house. She called David every day, pouring her heart out. David couldn't stand watching the princess he pampered suffer so much. He ran away with Carrie, planning to go overseas to lay low. But Ken's dad discovered it quickly. In their panic while being chased, David and Carrie had a car accident. David's legs were broken on the spot, and Carrie, protected by him, was just shaken up. How could David, once the golden boy, deal with such a fate? When he woke up and found he'd spend his life in a wheelchair, he blamed it all on me. But since I was far away, he turned his madness towards my parents. He even began to hate Carrie, physically and verbally abusing her. Even though my parents adored Carrie, they couldn't compare to their son. My mom grew to resent Carrie, finding ways to make her life miserable. Carrie tried to escape twice, but each time she was caught, she faced a severe beating. She went from being the spoiled darling to the tragic heroine of her own story. I was quite pleased with how it turned out. Weren't David and Carrie madly in love? They should stick together forever. My beautiful life is still ahead, waiting for me. The end.